Welcome to the new season of Brands Through Stories podcast, now called Mastervision, the compass to a meaningful future. We decided to start very powerfully and invited a guest who is a true leader and knows how to lead companies and people with purpose and vision.
I was the head of a division, an executive vice president.
You decided to leave. What happened?
I was asked to step down from the role.
How did you feel?
I started having nightmares.
What was your medicine or healing?
In a moment of craziness, I said to my wife, well, why don't we just pick up the kids, pick 4 backpacks and travel the world?
After traveling and in Dubai, were you a different leader or a different mindset?
Sometimes when you get fired, it might be the biggest gift you ever get.
What is the purpose for you?
When you're laying at your grave, or well, what do people say about you? Then they won't tell you, oh, you had a pool that was 60 meters long.
What do you think was your biggest leadership mistake that you could, you wish you could have avoided? Hi guys, welcome to the new season of Brands Through Stories podcast, now called Mastervision, the compass to a meaningful future. I'd like to ask you, please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please, if you like this channel, please subscribe. And if you like this episode, please leave us your comments and, of course, your likes, and enjoy. In order to build the meaningful and fulfilling future, you definitely need strong leadership skills. And that's why this season we decided to start very powerfully and invited a guest who is a true leader and knows how to lead companies and people with purpose and vision. Please welcome my guest, Alexander van Riet. He is a CEO and board member executive with over 25 years of experience. He is a former CEO of My Dubai Water Company. He is a partner at Lenoble Management Consultants, leadership coach, and author of the book called In Pursuit of Chocolate, A Journey of Discovery. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you for inviting me.
I'd like to ask now, this is a new season, and I want to start this season with a little bit of an unusual question.
Okay.
The question is, could you please describe yourself in 3 words? Who is Alexander? In 3 words or 3 phrases, but something that we can't find on your LinkedIn profile, in your media kit, in your CV, something that, only you knows or your friends.
Okay, I think a passionate is one of them. A passionate, I'll probably pick on high energy and thrilled to be alive.
Oh, this is nice.
That's what I would start with, I guess. Yeah.
You sound like a very positive person, loving life.
Yeah, I try to be, and I think I am most of the time, yeah.
Great. I think it's beautiful. So straight away, very, personal, professional question. You were a very successful CEO, worked for a really well-known brand, a company that is growing in F&B arena. And when having, I don't know if it was the peak, but definitely a very stable and great career, you decided to leave. What happened? Really, what happened?
Okay, so decided to leave. It was probably thrust upon me to a certain extent. So I was working in a European company at the time. It was a global company. I was the head of a division, an executive vice president at the time. 22 factories worldwide. Spent most of my time on airplanes. And then due to an IPO that was happening with the business, merger and acquisitions, there were some personnel changes. And I was asked to step down from the role.
Right.
And that was kind of one of those reflective moments. It was an amicable departure, as in it was financially attractive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that really made that change. And when you have that opportunity, there's an automatic moment of reflection.
Right. And that was before you started the journey, your 246-day journey right?
Yes.
Around the world?
Yes, correct. So once when I stepped out of the role, it came with a couple of conditions. That's not uncommon if you are in a senior position, that when you step out, that you can't work in the industry, you can't jump to a competitor or anything like that. And I had similar conditions.
Right.
So then you sit down on the couch and you go, okay, what am I going to do now? And after a moment of reflection, or maybe in a moment of craziness, I said to my wife, well, why don't we just pick up the kids, pick 4 backpacks and travel the world for a year, which ended up to be the 246 days you said. I didn't even...
I think it was in your book.
It's probably right.
246.
Yeah. And so we took backpacks and we physically traveled around the world, went in one direction and just kept going, like 80 days around the world kind of story.
I'd like to actually stay in the moment when you were asked to leave. I had a couple of guests before on this podcast that were very dedicated to the company, really senior roles, thought probably they would retire from the company, and then they had to leave due to the restructuring. And I see around me with a lot of friends of mine that is happening now. And most of the time is due to restructuring, the senior roles, senior people are asked to leave. And a lot of them are taking it very badly, actually. It's really hard, especially if you spend, 20 plus years in the company. How did you feel? Because I cannot imagine waking up, your identity probably that time was, a senior leader, right? And then just 200 days.
Yeah, and indeed, also in my case, it was quite abrupt. I didn't see it coming, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. It was one of those, you go into the office in the morning, and at lunchtime it was, please leave your keys and your badge at the front door. I think, actually, for a lot of people, it's a good experience. Now, that sounds a bit odd. But it's not so much how that happens. It's more about what do you do afterwards.
Yeah.
That is the trick.
Yeah.
A lot of these senior managers have probably in their lifetimes fired people. Yeah. Right? And they now all at once are sitting on the other side of the table. And what you can only hope is that people have done that to their colleagues when they had to do it in a graceful way. And hopefully it happened to them in a graceful way, which is not always the case. And that's an important element, I think. But then it's about, what do you do next? How do you pick up the ball? How do you recover from that? Companies are but companies, and people are dedicated to companies. They pour their souls in it, a lot of their hours. But ultimately, it is a company is an entity. It's not a person, and that can happen. And the key trick about it is, where do you go from there? What do you do with that?
What do you do with that? You wake up in the morning. I had this couple of times, but I left myself. Even then, it was hard and scary.
It's interesting because lots of different things happen. I mean, in our case, we didn't have any immediate urgency. So, financially, there wasn't a big issue and stuff like that. So that can, there is a little bit of personal, reputational damage that you worry about. But there's also some physiological things that happen. Yeah, my entire life, I never had nightmares about work. Just didn't happen. And all at once, when I was out of work, in that first month or 2 months, I started having nightmares about missing planes, about missing meetings, about budget conversations going completely crazy. That had never happened, and that is your brain, I think, trying to deal with this new situation, because all at once, after 20, 25 years of working long days, hard work, you get out of bed and actually there's nothing that you need to do. If you want to stay in bed, you stay in bed. If you want to go for a workout, you go for a workout. If you want to read a book, you read a book. And it is very interesting. It's not what you're used to. So Nina, one of the things that happened is I tried to discipline myself in reading in the beginning. And I found that I could not read a book at 10 o'clock in the morning. Just sitting on the couch, trying to read, because I was one paragraph in. And then there was this little voice going like, but you need to do something. Why aren't you doing something? And it was physically impossible to sit down and read a book. And it was really crazy, because on a vacation I would do that. So that was there's physiological, mental things that really are quite interesting when something like that happens. But ultimately, it is how you react and how you reset you recalibrate yourself to the new reality.
I can't read the book also now at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, or at 10 o'clock, I'm already at work. But I was trying in the morning to be a reader, right? I will open, and my brain, why are you sitting? You have to do, why don't you work? Why don't you work? In the evening, why don't you go to bed? You need to bed. You need 7 hours of sleep. It's always that thing.
And sometimes, actually, the thing is that maybe reading at that point in time might be one of your best investments. Maybe. Because you're reading about how do I do podcast, how do I do whatever I need to do, an industry report. But it's just we're in that rat race, and it's not expected, so you don't do that. So it's an interesting phase that you go through at that time.
So what was your, let's call it, I don't know, medicine or healing or whatever you want to call it, what helped you to get, I'm sure you felt probably a little bit as a victim, no?
Interesting. I was quite quickly able to just rationalize it. And I think that, to be quite honest, I think my wife had more of a problem with it than I did.
It's the women thing.
Because that's maybe because I was walking around the house all day long. But I did the typical thing, right? They call it garden leave for a reason sometimes when you have that. So I can tell you after 2 months, the garden had never looked so pristine in 20 years, because I really cleaned the crap out of it. I mean, literally and physically. So you find other things, but fairly quickly, we came up with this idea of, why don't we travel the world? Why don't we use this opportunity? It is forced upon us, but financially we're okay. We have the time. I couldn't really work in industry for a year or 2 years. So what do? Well, why not? And the funny part about that is that once that thought goes through your mind, and once I proposed it, my wife's first reaction, I think if looks could have killed, I'd be a dead man. But within about 12 hours, I woke up, I came downstairs, and my wife is sitting at the kitchen table. And she looked at me and she says, it's better if we travel west than east. And so she had already made that switch. Because you can't unring that bell. Once you think, why don't we do this? And you realize I have the time, I got the finances. The kids are in an age where we could do it. They were 11 and 13 at the time. So we did homeschooling. You can't unring that bell. And we both intrinsically knew, if we don't do it now, you're not going to do it. And I don't think I would have done it had that situation not been forced upon me. I wouldn't have just quit my job and done it. In hindsight, it was the biggest gift I ever got, which comes back to the earlier statement about sometimes when you get fired, it might be the biggest gift you ever get. The people that I know here get fired, not expected, hard time finding a job for a while. But wow, the relationship that they can build for 6 months or 12 months with their kids that otherwise, they would only see in the evenings. So look at this as an opportunity at the same time. That's kind of the ring.
So you went on that journey. Have you thought about work when you were traveling, or were you worried that, okay, I'll come back eventually, and then what?
Well, maybe this was the lunacy of it all. As we traveled, as we departed on our journey, we didn't know where we were going to live yet. I was living in Austria, Vienna. I still had a place in Geneva where I'd lived before, but we hadn't even decided yet where we were going to live. And we had thought about Dubai, to be quite honest with you.
Right.
So just before we left, I started a company in Dubai, consulting company, thinking that if on the road there's consulting projects, I might be able to do it just as opening a strategic window, but not with purpose. But then we did come by, and we did actually halfway the trip, as we're halfway around the world when we were in Singapore. We actually did an out and back to Dubai to take a look at schools. And then we decided, why don't we settle in Dubai, a place that we only had traveled or vacationed before. It was very, very open. And I'm probably one of the few people that came to Dubai with, I think we had 5 suitcases and we checked into a hotel. So I didn't have a job. My wife didn't have a job. And we said, we'll try this for 2 years. If something happens, great. If not, then we'll have to go back to another place and we'll see what we can do. And yeah, the rest is history. It was just a fantastic time being here, and it's only gotten better.
And then you're in Dubai and you went back to corporate world.
Yes.
And a very, very well-known brand. Was it well-known at that time?
It was beginning to get known.
It was beginning, yeah.
So I started as a consultant. I did some consulting projects, and one of them was with for My Dubai, the water brand. That at the time, I think we were 3.5-4% market share. Just starting out, very exciting, very entrepreneurial, and I had an opportunity to do a training at the time. And the relationship with the then CEO grew very quickly. And not that much longer, I joined the company. And then not much after that, I ended up being the leader of the group and then the CEO of the company. So it was very exciting.
So what was the difference when you were, before your journey, a leader before your journey, senior executive, and then after that experience, after traveling and in Dubai, were you a different leader or a different mindset?
I believe yes. I mean, a journey like that will not will not leave you unaffected. I think that the journey also confirmed a lot of the thoughts that I already had. So did it change a lot? It maybe cemented some of my fundamental beliefs. The big difference in the job was that I had gone in companies of different sizes, but I ultimately worked as a divisional head of a $2 billion company. At this point in time, when you have many factories, there's a certain distance between you and the rest of the organization. What was different here, as I started working for the company, is that it was a much smaller organization.
Right.
So when I got there, I think it was about 500 people. So you can almost put your arms around it, right? So the nice part, and that is what I really enjoyed, you could touch the lives, you could really have an impact. If you're sitting as the top dog of a large organization, you make strategic decisions, you set visions, but you kind of lose the feel with the base. And what was very nice here was that I could do that again. And I enjoy that. I enjoy, working with the entire organization, not just with executives and senior management and the politics and everything that comes with it, but actually, touch the brands, go in the market, go in the field, talk to the sales guys and the drivers and stuff like that. And that was very enjoyable. I think what the trip did do is what I had as an innate kind of feel that everybody in the organization, anybody is important, no matter what car they drive, how big their office is.
Is that what you understood during the trip?
I already had the very strong feel of that. That was already, I think, a core belief. But it just cemented that. It just reconfirmed that to a large extent. Yeah.
So to finish a little bit on that, on the story of, okay, you lose what was your identity, professional, unexpected. There is always a future there. What would you give to the people now? I don't know. There's a lot of them stuck in their positions in Dubai. They get great salaries. They probably got used to a very good lifestyle, and probably that's one of the reasons why a lot of them stuck.
Yeah.
But they know that eventually, very soon, most probably, they're going to be let go. What advice would you give them?
Also, one of the things that I do nowadays, I do some executive coaching, and the question about if you're stuck, the question becomes, what makes you be stuck? Why are you stuck? Because stuck is your decision. Yeah. If people are very unhappy in a role, they do that to themselves. I remember I was standing at an evening do with a group of CEOs, and one of the CEOs, who will remain unnamed, was talking about all the problems that he had, and it kind of aggravated me. Because it got to the point where I said, you do realize that that's your job, right? Because if small problems get solved lower in the organization. So by the time a problem comes to a CEO, there's probably missing data. It's ambiguous. It's a tough decision because nobody wants to make the decision. So the problems that come to a CEO's desk are hairy problems. That's why they pay you. So if somebody complains about, I got all these problems on my desk, Well, if you don't like it, get out of the world.
That's you. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that has some consequences. That has consequences. That means that if you don't want that, it has an impact on finances perhaps. It might have impact on perception and your reputation if
Yeah.
you're sensitive to that. But you have to balance them. The one thing that I did see in my trips around the world is that no matter where you were, and I've been in very impoverished, because we did some volunteer work as well, in some very distressed areas. Yeah. And I saw happy people there, and people that were optimistic and that were giving and that were sharing, and they were happier than some of the people that I've seen with the riches, if you will, that had everything, and they were deeply unhappy and grumpy when they go to work. But that's the choice. So the trap, people have to ask them questions. Why are you trapped? Because this is your own made trap. This is your own made trap. And you can sit down on the couch and be miserable about it, or you can say, I'm going to pack my bags and go travel the world. You know?
Yeah.
Choose your attitude. I think it's out of the book Fish, but choose your attitude is so important in these things, because that's what makes people tick. And yeah, it is scary. And some people get trapped because typically they're not willing to make the hard decision. But if you're really trapped, if you're unhappy in a role, and when some people say like, I'm really successful, but I'm unhappy, then I go, that can't be possible. If you're unhappy, how do you define success? The Lamborghini?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the trick. It's the mindset.
This podcast was born out as a therapeutical tool for me. When I lost my business partner during hard time at COVID, I had nothing. Company was going bankrupt, and we had to let the whole team go. And then this is really that happened. I've created this podcast, and now it's my baby that's growing. So yes, there is always, it's the attitude. Is that.
Yeah, and if you think about it, a Disney movie, I sometimes say a Disney movie, you need a villain in there to have the hero succeed, right? Everything cannot always be flowery and great and beautiful. If you live in one big Bacardi commercial, after a while it gets boring. So you need the extremes. The question is, and that's what In Pursuit of Chocolate is about. It's about, we always want more chocolate, if you will, but that additional piece of chocolate might not make you happier. And that's why I also wrote the book that way. But indeed, as you said, tough situation. You had to let go of people. I hope you did it in a graceful way. But the other thing about that is then that created new opportunities. And very often when things go not according to plan, we see all the things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
But we don't know the opportunity that's around the turn.
Absolutely.
You don't know the person that you meet outside the door when you're doing a podcast, right? Seek those opportunities. Look for that. That's why I said in the beginning, optimistic, happy, energetic. That's why, because that's what you need to look. You create that to a certain extent.
Last night, very late, I got a call from a friend of mine who was, I think he was out of this role for 2 years. He was a very, very senior role here. I think it's about 2 years he was looking for a different role. Through these ups and downs. At the end, he started doing what he loves with meat, grills, and so on. And yes, he called me to share that he found a great job, amazing role. And he was so happy to share. And, I put the phone down and I was thinking, I haven't had a telephone call like that for a long time. No one calls, people don't call. I only call my parents, my family. But no one calls you to say, he just called to share that he now has this new role. He's very excited. Is that? And I put the phone down. He called my husband also during the day because we're friends. And I was like, I can't believe I have goosebumps now. No, this is the first time someone called without wanting anything, without any plan, just to share this. And it was beautiful. And I'm thinking, because we had, a podcast with him also some time ago. And I was so happy for him. So, but it took him time.
Yeah, it takes time for people to find that, and then and you see it immediately. The wiggle their feet, the sparkle in their eyes, right? They found it, and that will wear off. The honeymoon will wear off, and it becomes a dread perhaps again. But that's okay. It's about that journey. It's about that, how you travel through that. And indeed, one of the challenges that you see is that in the world of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever the new one is that everybody posts what everything is great. Yeah. Well, you take somebody's Facebook, that is not a reflection of their reality. That is a reflection of a part of their reality, but they're probably showing you the happy moments, right?
Yeah.
So we get this warped view. And then people start thinking, well, everybody's always happy all the time. Well, you know what? That's not the way it is. It comes with ups and downs. And sometimes the downs are really good because it makes you really appreciate what you have. You don't appreciate that, all your limbs are working until you got a broken arm. And then you go, like, darn, it's, when you want to do workouts, but you got a sprained ankle, that's when you really want to do your workouts. While you're doing it, you're not enjoying them that much. But then all of a sudden, man, I really miss that. So it's, it's a balance. It's a balance.
It reminded me, when I open Instagram, I'm okay actually. I don't mind. I see that, I don't know, people with super sporty. I think I can get to that. Cars and so on somehow doesn't really excite me. The minute I open LinkedIn, I feel everyone is the most intelligent. Everyone is busy. There's the LinkedIn that wakes me. Sometimes I just don't open it at that site and have my team run it. It's really feels like everyone is super busy, very successful. They read books, like so many books. And it's just, you can't cope. I don't even have so much time to even cope with that.
No, and you see this, there is a shift that has taken place over the last 100 years, and it's gone crazy right now. Yeah, is the core values of people. A long time it was around honor, morality, dedication, devotedness, and now it is about magnet, being big, bling. How do I attract? How am I? But it's happened. It has shifted from core values, if you will, from character. Well, people used to be respectable characters to image and perception, and you see this even up to world leaders. That's what they are managing, but it's not anymore about this respected value principle based. That happens in politics. It happens in businesses, and it's probably very addictive for people. The biggest, the nicest, the look at me, but actually, it's the core values, the principles that are so important.
Do you think we will ever go back to core principles and values, or I will continue?
I hope that will ultimately be the counter wave. I mean, life is a pendulum. You need the bad to get the good. Maybe we need to go through this wave, and basically what the internet has done and communication has done. You can now scream to everybody. It used to be that it was filtered up and filtered down. Nowadays, anybody can talk to anybody. But then you get the entire story about bubbles and echo chambers and all that stuff. But you like to believe that, ultimately in your direct atmosphere, people you touch around you, that they'll appreciate you more for that. I always say, never work on your CV, work on your eulogy, right? So don't work on, I went to school here, I have this car, I have this house, I got this pool and whatever else, and I can't go on holidays here and there. But, that's your CV.
Yeah.
I was a VP at this and this company, but the eulogy, when you're laying at your grave, or well, what do people say about you? Then they won't tell you, oh, he had a pool that was 16 meters long, but they'll say, it was a good person. He helped me out when I needed. He was a man of principles. So look at that, and you hope that ultimately is what people realize, that that's the important part. That's actually what makes the life a life experience. You go from dust to dust, from nothing to nothing, and what you do in between is probably not about what you take to the grave. It's who have you touched.
Yeah.
The 7 people you meet in heaven book. Yeah, and you can touch other people's characters. You can pay it forward. You can be nice and kind to people, and ultimately that is what you will look back on, I think, or that is what people appreciate also in business. Doesn't mean that you're nice to everybody. Sometimes the best doctors are tough doctors. The best teachers was maybe the person that you didn't like the most, but he was the best teacher, because he was strict or he was firm with you. So it's not about just one big kumbaya, we love everybody. But there is something about doing things respectfully, doing things with a purpose, with a vision, with an eye on the people.
And it doesn't matter how old you are, because you reminded me of example in my family. My husband's grandmother passed away. I think she was 92 or 93. And she passed away in the city that she was quite new, maybe 10 years or 15. And at her funeral, there were so many people, I was told, and bearing in mind that she couldn't really go outside maybe a year or 2 years before she passed away. There were so many people saying great words about her. And, it's not because she actually helped everyone physically there. I think it's her personality, her smile. She knew the whole town. Eventually what she started living there, she was saying hi. Small conversation made a huge difference.
Absolutely. Small actions of kindness can do miracles.
Yeah.
Can do miracles.
Yeah. And on contrary, recently happened, and I hope no one from my parents' friends watching it. We had a discussion. My mom attended one of your friends' funeral. And unfortunately, because the last, maybe 3-5 years, if not more, he had some addictions and he passed away, and people couldn't say anything. And when she was asked to say something, she said, "You know what? For a moment, I didn't have words." And then it was like, I have goosebumps again. It's just very sad when people have nothing to say at all, right? And this is just the little actions that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Vision. When you were in My Dubai or in previous roles, let's stay with My Dubai. What was your vision then? And did you communicate it to people? What is...
Yeah, they say about a leader, if you have a vision and you communicate, you communicate, and afterwards you communicate. And by the time that you get sick of your own message, maybe the first people have heard you. And there's a certain truth to that. Vision-wise, business-wise, it's fairly simple. Yeah, we wanted to become the #1 brand. We needed to do that, and we knew that because we also have to buy a name. You cannot take shortcuts on quality. So that was pretty clear, and that wasn't my doing. I mean, any logical person would have said, we want to be big, we want to be a big brand, we want to be respected, and we want to make that happen. I think the elements of what does the individual bring then is how do you do that? If you strip it apart, a business, if you take a look at this company or my previous companies where I worked, the equipment that we bought, came from France and from Germany. The trucks that we use to deliver are Mitsubishi trucks, come out of Japan. The computers that we use are Apple's or IBM's. The software that we use is, pick your name. These are all things, if you got money, you can buy them. Our electricity was not different than other people's electricity. So what makes a company then wildly successful or not? It is the in-between. It's the glue in between. It's the people. It's in how you organize them, how motivated they are. Are they going that extra mile? How do you get the best out of a team? How do you get the quiet introverts to speak up? How do you make sure that people actually believe in what you're trying to do? So it's about what you do, but also about the purpose. Do they feel that they are in a place where they are secure? Do they feel in a place where they can take risk? Do they feel that they can actually, is your door open? But can you also walk through it? I hear managers, some senior guys say, my door is always open. And I kind of laugh then at them and say, well, how about you walk out of it and go into the factory? Yeah, because a factory guy that stands on the line is not going to go in his blue collar worker up the stairs in the elevator, walk into the executive wing to walk into your office because the door is open. It's not going to happen. You want to know what happens there? You know what? If your door is always open, why don't you walk through it and walk out? That's how you figure out what goes on. Yeah. I used to love going to the night shift. You go to the night shift because that's where you learn what happens, because people's guards are down and they are so happy to see somebody. They'll tell you what's going on. But that's not about the equipment. It's not about the computers. And yes, you need to organize that and you need to buy your equipment well. Of course you do. But ultimately it is, if you have a team that is fully believing in the purpose, in what you're trying to do, feels safe, is happy when they work, yeah, you can have an 80% strategy. With that attitude, you win the war anytime over a company that has got a perfect strategy and that misses that human element, that people part of it.
Could we go a little bit into the practical side of it? So let's say, first of all, what I hear is that it's important not just to have a vision, we want to be number one. That's usually standard. We want to
top quartile, number
revolutionize
one.
the industry.
Absolutely, yeah.
With ChatGPT now is mainly we're going to revolutionize the industry through sustainability and innovation or something like that.
Absolutely.
So you have it's a vision that is purpose-led, right? So it's important to have that purpose, right? What is the purpose for you? Like, what is that? I don't want to, what is the purpose, the reason for?
Well, in my case, it was very much about not the destination point, but how you get there.
Okay.
And that was really part of the purpose on how I drove things. So I watched a movie the other day, and it was a movie out of the 70s. And you take a look at it and go like, wow, these are really old cars. Now, I remember driving in those cars because that was what I grew up on. If you see them right now, they look old compared to cars today. But at that time, man, they were beautiful cars, right? Cars have moved on since then with everything on it and in it. So whatever we're producing today will be looked upon as old in 10, 15 years from now, but we seem to believe in it. That's actually not what it's about. It's not about that car itself, I believe. It is about how you put it together, who puts it together, and do they believe in what they're doing? It is the don't take yourself too serious element. It is, as a leader, try to spread a little bit of fun and happiness and enjoyment. We're working for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day sometimes. Yeah, you might as well make that an experience that you don't dread going to work. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he said, I now have a new job because I walked away from where I was. I used to be 15 kilometers from my work, and I dreaded the 15 kilometers. He says, I work in this new company. I drive from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. I'm sitting for over an hour in the car, out and back, and I enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah.
And that's not about the product they're producing. Yeah. That's about him believing that he works in an environment with maybe like-minded people or not like-minded people, but in an atmosphere that is worth his time. That's worth his time.
I get requests that, okay, we need to define our purpose, something, the reason beyond money. But most of the time, as usual, the clients that I haven't worked with, potential clients, is the request is we need it for communication purposes. We need it for our website, for this, and then for me, I believe it's meaningless. It's just
I call it the hairdresser. You end up with the hairdresser statement. What I call the hairdresser statement, right? It's the statement that your company's mission. You can hang it up with your local hairdresser. It will go along the lines of we deliver the best products for our targets customers. And we do this while being good to our employees and the environment.
Yes. Very
Yeah,
good.
that's true for everybody.
Very
Thank you.
good.
There's nothing new that you've told me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in those kind of statements, the purpose, the values, is like, what do you really want to stand for?
Yeah.
I rather have to value, if I have to choose between the values conversation or the purpose conversation, I'll take the values conversation. Thank you very much. Because if I get the right people on the bus, as they say, and I get them to understand the values that I want to live by, well, I can drive the bus anywhere, right? There's companies like Nokia. Nokia started in wood business, then they became a rubber boot business, then they became a telephone company and something in between. And right now, I think they only do networks, right? They reinvent themselves. They were making rubber boots, right? They reinvented themselves many times. Companies do that. So the equipment changes, the product changes. So, and through those times, people worked there, and I hope they were motivated to work there.
Give me a couple of practical tools. Let's say we have this very meaningful purpose. We do something for wherever environments. We have great values. We define them so well.
Yep.
We are about creativity and so on. How now? Okay, great. So we have it. It's there. What's next?
Walk the talk. Walk the talk. You can say we have open communication, and sit in your executive office and never go out and talk to people. Yeah? You can say I value people, and people are our most important assets. Yeah, and fire them on the spot without good reason. You can say, innovation is the most important thing for our business. We want 30% of our products from new, yeah, but not accept people fail when they try new products. Yeah, it's Edison, one of the most prolific inventors, of course, of the world. When he was making a lamp bulb, and somebody says, like, "Well, you don't seem to make much progress." To which he says, "Well, that's interesting you say that, because I just learned 1,000 ways how not to make a lamp bulb." Yeah, it's a little bit about the mindset. And that mindset of a leader is so important, that you not only just say it and you stick it on the wall, but can I hold you up to those standards? Also, when you're under pressure under pressure from the board, and when you lose your biggest customer, and when the plant goes down, and when COVID hits, and you need to make tough decisions for people, when that happens, can you still hold up? When everything goes well and you grow and there's profit, it's easy to hold up to your standards. But at that moment, when the person gets hurt in the company, how do you react to that? Do you show empathy? Yeah, is that what you do? Or do you say, why did that happen? Do you fire the person that got hurt or his boss? Well, how do you deal with that? Yeah, that is the important part, because that's what people will be looking at. That's when the spotlight is on you. So when you have those values, number one, walk the talk. Hold yourself to those standards and higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mindset you've mentioned mindset. What do you think here is, because you've seen the business is growing, the region is growing, more and more companies are opening or moving to Dubai or in the region. What is the mindset of the leader that requires here? Is it different from Europe, let's say, or America, wherever you want to compare it, maybe Europe? Is it different? And if it's different, what's the difference? And if it's the same, what is it? How would we define it?
I think that there's a couple of underlying mindsets that are the same, which is, and there's many things and how it shows itself that's totally different. The way that you would work in a factory in South Africa or in Germany, in Mexico or the UK is different, because it's different values, different culture, different setup. But I think that there is a couple of underlying things that always hold true. Things about respect people, but also, if things don't go well, it's not about if you fall down, it's about how do you step up. It is about how do you stand upon the shoulders of the people that came before you, and how do you let people succeed. Those are some of the things that are true everywhere. Now,
Right.
in some places there's a wave going and you jump on the wave. Yeah, if you're in a place where there's a contraction in the economy, the mindset, the feel, the touch is completely different than if you're like in this region here where we still have enormous growth. Obviously, but the fundamentals are that actually in difficult situations is when real leaders step up. It's either easy to be a leader when things go well. Yeah. It is during times of recession or slowdown or financial hardship. That's when you see a real leader step up. And invariably, they energize people. They show them up the route. They walk up front and say, guys, we're going to make this happen. It is almost blind optimism. One of my favorite sayings is, he didn't know it couldn't be done, so he went out and did it. Yeah? He didn't know it couldn't be done, so he went out and did it. There's something very beautiful about that. Setting these bold goals and making it happen. Even here in the region, as a CEO, I sometimes had requests that were unreasonable. And I say this a little bit with a smile on my face, because I would tell my European friends, I go like, but what they're asking you is unreasonable. I said, yes. And that's great. And they go, huh? I said, but think about it. If Dubai was reasonable, would they have a Burj Khalifa? Would they have the Palm? Would they have the Burj Al Arab? Yeah. When the thought was built, it was not reasonable to do that. Yeah. But sometimes you got to be a little bit unreasonable in your expectations. And it never amazes me it is amazing how much more people can do than they think themselves. So as a leader, if I show 100% trust and I'm 100% convinced that I know you can do it, you will probably do more than you think you can. And that's where the value of a leader comes in, where I get the absolute maximum that you even surpass yourself. And we've all been in those situations.
But I would like to ask, it's not by pushing you so much that you're going to have a burnout, or it's more, I believe in you so much that...
Absolutely. It is. You can't push that. You cannot push people to greatness. You can entice them to greatness. It's not about, guys, we're going to go across the ocean. I'm going to tell you, we're going to chop this tree down. We're going to put this boat together like this. And I want you to do it quick. And I want you to do it now and work harder. And I keep beating people until morale improves. No, but if I turn the story around to say, guys, there's a beautiful world out there. If only we could get across this ocean, help me out. How could we do this? And somebody says, well, maybe we should build a boat. And somebody else says, well, I got a saw. So, well, can we use those? Yes. Now, all at once, it's purpose-led. Yeah. And I've created the dream of where I want to go. And I believe you can do it.
Yeah.
And people sign up for that.
Yeah.
Whereas if I tell people, you need to build a boat and you need to build it right now, and I want it fast, and I'm going to measure you till the nth detail, that's not very... No, I can coerce you into that. But then in the morning, when you drive your 15 minutes to work, you're going... Whereas the guy that says, I'm building a boat to go across the ocean. It's the NASA example of the guy that works at NASA. Yeah. And in the pre-conversation, we mentioned that. Yeah. The cleaner there, and the senator walks by and says, what do you do? And the cleaner says, I'm helping put a man on the moon.
Yeah. I love this example.
If you can get that attitude into people, and I don't even know if it's a true happen story, but everybody resonates with that.
Yeah.
Because we've seen people believe in you more than you believed in yourself. I think that's what great educators do. Great educators awaken a flame in you about something that you didn't know that you could do, and then you go out and you do it.
And I wish we could continue for another at least 2 hours, but then I have my operator showing me that it's so fast. So, but still, we'll ask one question. 2 more questions. What do you think was your biggest leadership mistake that you could, you wish you could have avoided?
Wow. I've probably made more mistakes than I have memory to remember. Let me start by saying that. And I honestly mean that. Somebody once said to me, a leader knows how to resist a bad idea. And I took that to heart. And so when I believed something was a bad idea, I was very strong and forceful in objecting to those. What I probably could have done a couple of times is go with the flow. Do part of it, or go at least somewhat that direction, certainly when it comes from top down. Because the amount of energy that you and your organization spent in resisting could have been used way more successful. So I can think of a couple of cases that were like that, where I was convinced we shouldn't do something or should do something, and there was a leadership decision, we'd not, and I kept pushing for it. Yeah. And there's a point where you say, okay, don't do it 100% that way. Find another way. Yeah. There's the French word contourner, which is to go around, and still get to where you need to go. Those are probably the key ones. The other one that I would pick up, I talked about people. When you do interviews, you do your interviews, and sometimes everything on paper is right and your gut tells no.
Yeah, don't.
Go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
Go with your gut, because there's something that will ultimately pop up. So in recruiting, I've made a couple of mistakes that I didn't listen to my gut. In business ideas, I resisted too much and I should have just gone with it. And the other thing is, eat humble pie. It's okay to make mistakes. Yeah, just don't make the same mistakes over and over again. But that's the most important part.
Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would that be?
Let it go. Let it go. Don't obsess too much. Be reflective enough, even if it affects you. That is probably a superpower. So it's not something to get something done. Don't force it. It's actually that, just take a deep breath and let it go, and really let it go. Because sometimes we let things go,
and then they come back,
but they're still eating away at you, right?
Yeah,
they're still eating away. You're saying like, that's okay, that's what, and it eats away. You just let it go. That is that's a superpower. And don't take yourself too serious. That's the other one. that a lot of people should have that one.
And be a blind optimist.
And blind optimist. Yeah, we can go on for hours. I'm afraid. Sorry, you asked for one only.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
really
Nina.
loved it. The time went so fast, and I have to finish. And but it was beautiful. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to be here, Nina. Anytime.
Okay, we've done it. Very strict. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you see,
it's okay.
Didn't ask half of what I wanted to ask. It was beautiful. I love blind optimists, because my business partner, when the situation was difficult, was telling me, I said, we need to be optimists. I said, why are you so pessimistic? I said, what word did he use? I'm a realist.
A realist.
It's like, your reality is awful. I don't want that reality.
It's very,